Hi. 10 years on YouTube. 10 years. Before I started recording this video, I had a million different things on my mind as far as what I would say and how I would go about doing this video. And I probably will get to all of them somehow, some way. But I want to kind of take this opportunity to give you an idea of the last 10 years of my life and how it ties to YouTube and everything in general. Because I want to try and keep it more about the journey here than just my life in general. See, when I started YouTube, I was 20 years old. I'm now 30. And I had no idea what I was doing. Like many kids growing up, YouTube was this thing that was mind-blowing. It was incredible, this idea that you could just post videos of yourself for free and just advertise yourself, put yourself out there. I remember when YouTube first started, the whole idea was, the tagline was broadcast yourself. But the trouble is, I never really knew who I was or what to broadcast. I remember having accounts before this account where I would just post like skateboarding videos or something silly, like most teenagers growing up in the 2000s. You know, it was just a place to just dump your videos of you and your friends and muck around, and maybe there's that one serious person in your class that sort of had something to offer and kept doing it, and maybe even still does it. But with me, I never really knew what to do. I always doubted myself immeasurably. I always didn't think I was good enough. Had people around me who reinforced that, told me that I couldn't do things or that wasn't quite right for me, and so on. By the time I got to this particular YouTube channel, my life looked like this. I was 20 years old. I was 1 year away from moving out of home. I was working in a supermarket job that I hated with every fibre of my being. I wasn't really doing music anymore. I'd been in a band for about 2 or 3 years, and the band had unfortunately ended. Everyone in the band went off to do their things, and I was kind of left on my own, like always. And I was just mucking around with my guitar, maybe trying to do something acoustic. I did a few shows. It didn't work out. My then partner, who I'd been with for about 3 years, had broken up with me, and I was sort of dealing with my very first heartbreak, which took me about 1.5 years to recover from. So it was kind of like a transitionary time before starting university the next year. And I remember thinking at the time, oh, I'd love to do this YouTube thing. Like, why don't I just give it a go, you know? What do I have to lose? And that'll be a big theme in this video. What do I have to lose? I looked at it and I was like, okay, well, I can definitely post music videos, me writing music. And if you look back over the years, you go to the very beginning of this channel, you'll still see those videos there. Those are videos I still stand by, and I think that it's important to try and show your progression over time. Your journey is important. You don't know, or you didn't know what you know now then. But I also remember all the videos that didn't quite make the cut. Some which I recorded, never posted. Other videos were up for years and then I removed them or privated them. I'd always look back and sort of cringe or be like, oh, I don't like this, it's not me, etc. And that's a key point. Who am I? Who is me? What am I trying to present? I'd always been a musician, so that is something that I never really felt I needed to hide or present in any other way other than, here it is, here's me playing music, make of it what you will. But when it came to creating YouTube videos in general, I just didn't have any ideas. I didn't have a grand plan of what to do. I saw at the time, and this is back in 2013, 10 years ago, a lot of people doing videos and making a lot of money from it. And there was a particular style then of like how you present videos, just like I'm sure there is now. And I tried to do that. I tried to do the presenter thing, and you know, some videos would get a few views here and there, but it was fake. It wasn't me. It was disingenuous. It was terrible. And so I decided not to do it. And I remember thinking back then, I will come back to this. One day I will post videos when I have a really good idea. When I know what to present. I will do it. And I made like a sort of a mini promise to myself that I would do that. And I kept that promise. I just didn't realize that it would come many years later. My YouTube channel has remained open the whole 10 years, but I haven't always posted throughout those 10 years. You go through a lot in 10 years, especially in your 20s. So for anyone who's just turned 20, buckle up. I remember a few years ago someone said to me, your 20s is where you figure out what you want to do with your life, and your 30s is where you make it happen. And that could not be truer for my life. As I mentioned before, back then, when I was 20, I was still figuring it out. And for much of your 20s, that will be what you will do, is try to figure it out. Now, as it pertains to YouTube, YouTube was always kind of in the background while I was doing things. I'd post music videos here and there while I was at university, so when I turned 21, university changed my life the next year. And YouTube's kind of seemed like a natural thing there. You know, I'm mucking around, I'm meeting new people, it's a fun time, and YouTube has always been a fun thing. I posted a lot of videos during that time. And at one point I even considered sort of documenting my experience at university. But I think I lacked the motivation, to be honest. And then various sort of personal things got in the way, bad relationships. Obviously, university takes over your life. I very much felt like it was a bubble that I got consumed into, where I wasn't even really aware of like what was going on in the outside world. I was just so consumed in the university bubble thing. And you know, after a while, the YouTube videos just kind of stopped happening. And when the bad relationship sort of took over my life, and I found myself consumed with that, and obviously I eventually got into this marketing degree because that's what I studied at university, I didn't really post anymore. There was a big gap of maybe 2 or 3 years where I just didn't post anything. I wasn't in a good headspace. There were times when I didn't want to be here anymore. And when I got through all of that, and that leads me to sort of the current timeline, if you like. About 4 years ago, when I was in that marketing job in Europe, lost, not really knowing what to do with myself, a guy called Carl, I always mention this in the story, but I've never actually mentioned him by name. So if Carl, you should see this one day. For what might have been a very simple gesture for you, just a small little thing, for me it changed my life. So thank you for coming up to me that one day in the office and telling me that some people you knew were doing a short film, because it's literally changed the trajectory of my life. So I cannot thank you enough. He came up to me and he announced that. And I just, I laughed. Oh, they're looking for an English guy from London to play in this film. I was thousands of miles away from home in this foreign country, dealing with all manner of different things. And I just thought, why not? What do I have to lose? Remember I said that before? What do I have to lose? I had nothing to lose at that point. Like I mentioned, I just didn't want to be here anymore. I was existing. Waking up every day and just trying to get through the day. Cold, dead inside. I mean, all these kind of thoughts come to mind. But that's how I felt. Now, around that time when I started doing these short films, I fell in love with acting in a way that I couldn't have predicted. I remember the very first day on set when we were ready to start shooting, and I just felt like this is how it felt when I used to do music. Why did I stop doing that? I started having all these questions in my mind. Why did I stop doing this? Why did I stop doing that? Why am I not doing anything creative? That's what I should be doing. And so naturally, when I got back home one day after a shoot, I just kind of looked at this camera that I'd had for years. The very first camera I owned that I shot videos on that became the first videos for this account. I thought, why not just start making videos again? Sure, they'll probably suck, the quality will be terrible, the camera's out of date, but why does that matter? As long as I'm putting myself out there and trying, surely that's the most important thing, right? So I started doing that. I started making skits. They're terrible. I think you can find them. They're shot in the wrong way as well. I shot them all like that instead of this way. I don't know what I was thinking, but I guess I wasn't really thinking much about the presentation. I was just kind of like throwing ideas out there and seeing what sticks and what doesn't. And ironically, the music thing came back. I started writing music again. I felt inspired to do that again. And so I started doing that again. And again, I fell in love with it. And now I was a bit older. I had a bit more of a clearer idea of what to do. But I was still kind of making it up as I go along. And somewhere in 2019, I started kind of structuring different series together. I made a series of urbex videos with my friend Juhan from Estonia, and we explored all these different amazing abandoned like tunnels and buildings and bunkers in Estonia, and I made a whole entire series out of it. I spent a lot of time editing videos and kind of figuring out that process and how to present things. During that time, I started my one and only like full-length Let's Play series, which sucked, but apparently some people liked it, so thank you for anyone that ever watched that. If you happen to come across this video, I appreciate it. I realized the quality wasn't there, but I was trying. I did a whole series, and I was proud that I was able to do this entire series and finish it, because it really was very difficult to edit. And I knew nothing about editing at that point. I met some amazing people during that time. Shout out to Childish Jacko, Trial by Fire. You guys really kind of gave me hope at a time when I was struggling, and it was nice to meet some people from different parts of the world that were trying to do something with their lives as well. And we eventually got together and did a very short-lived podcast together, and it was a lot of fun. It didn't matter that didn't lead to anything, because we just had a good time, and it reminded me of why I enjoyed making videos in the first place. Because the focus was always oh, I need to get somewhere with this. I need to do something with this. I need to do something with my life. And, I'm still chasing that. Just to cliff notes, I'm an actor, voice actor, podcaster, musician, content creator. I do all these different things. But the thing that keeps coming back to me at all times, the mindset is, you need to make sure that you love doing this. It can't be about money. It can't be about, chasing status or fame or gifts or whatever else everyone else is chasing. It needs to be about creating something of value, something that's real. You know, when I first started YouTube, everyone was putting on personas, and people still do. And I just couldn't identify with that. Maybe it's because I didn't really know who I was and I was still trying to figure myself out, and I wanted to figure that out rather than create a character. But it was also because I would see these people that were really successful, and I'd see them when they interacted with their fans, and they looked exhausted, that they had to put on this persona all the time that wasn't them. And I figured, why not just be me? Sure, people might hate me, people might dislike me, but at least I wouldn't have to pretend. And it's ironic, like me being an actor, like I literally play pretend for a living, but I still get to be me with everything else that I do. And you know, when I'm on set, like I get to be me because I get to like crack jokes with people, have fun, make everyone enjoy the whole thing that we're doing together, the collaborative process. And I think that's kind of key in YouTube content creation. When it stops being fun, that's when you know you're doing something wrong. You know that the reason you started and the reason you're still going are worlds apart. So for anyone that might be watching this and you know you've made it, you've become successful, and you're like, but I've become disillusioned with it all. Think about why you first started. Think about what inspired you to initially start creating videos, and get back to basics. Now, I realize that I'm not a successful content creator. I don't have millions of subscribers, and maybe I never will. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. But I can tell you, in 10 years of doing this, I've learned a lifetime of life lessons, and I've grown quite literally in 10 years, spiritually, mentally, physically, you name it. I'm in the best possible headspace I could ever be in. And I owe it all to the people who believed in me over the years, the people that took a chance on me. I owe it to, and I don't often say this, but to myself as well. I managed to keep going despite all the challenges that were thrown my way. I managed to kind of persevere and just hang in there. So for anyone that's struggling, that's watching this video, the best advice I could give you, 2 bits of advice. Keep going and never stop going, and be patient. Things don't happen overnight. I only got to 1,000 subscribers a few years ago, and by the time I got there, I'd already failed that goal several years in a row. It didn't lead to anything. I didn't monetize. I've still not earned a cent with YouTube. And I went through various different emotions with regards to that. You know, there was bitterness, there was frustration, there was anger, and then finally there was acceptance, the full circle. I realized that it doesn't matter. What matters is, are you enjoying this? Are you getting something from it? Is it providing something of value for you and for those who watch? That's the thing. I know there's a handful of people that watch these videos and check out my live streams and check out the podcast and the Patreon and everything else in between. And when I started realizing that these people not only get something from it, but for some people, my content keeps them motivated and keeps them wanting to be here. I found out recently that there was quite a few people that I helped with their mental health. Unbeknownst to me, they said that I was the reason they're still here. And that kind of caught me off guard, because here I am, a guy who's not really got a lot to show for himself over the years, but I've learned a lot. I have a lot I can teach people based on my mistakes and the things I've learned and the things I've gone through throughout the years. I realized that what I'm doing is so much bigger than myself. And that's why I keep going and why I keep trying, because I love doing this. I love creating content, and I love that it reaches some people on some level. Because I think if nothing else, being a human being, you know, you want to connect with people, you want to identify with other people, you want to be able to relate to other people. I've dealt with things like loneliness and the difficulty of connecting with people throughout the years, ever since I was a kid. And knowing that I could reach other like-minded people like myself is invaluable. You could never put a price on that. And with regards to the patience factor that I mentioned before, I think that I'm a firm believer that things happen when they're supposed to happen, not when you want them to happen. For so many years, I was clueless and didn't know what I was doing with my life, and you know, there was all these different things that I wanted and they never seemed to happen. And then as I just focused more inward on myself and trying to get better and trying to be a better person, adult, man, whatever you want to say, that's when I really started making progress. And that's also incidentally when I started, I think, making better content, because I was focusing less on trying to make good content and focusing more on just trying to be better. And that's when things like my confidence started to shine through, and I started relaxing a bit more and just putting stuff out when I want to put stuff out, and not stressing about what the algorithm is doing or what the popular thing is. And believe me, I've tried to be successful. I've tried all the different trends. I've tried everything you're supposed to do, and none of it worked. And sometimes it did work, but then nothing came of it. And I was always sort of starting from square one again. And like I mentioned before, when I realized that I was reaching people on some level, that's when I realized that I've achieved my goals, and everything else is a bonus. Now, that's my introduction to the video. A 22-minute introduction. I have some wonderful questions from the amazing Vilma, who has been a follower and friend of mine for years now. She said, oh, you don't have to mention me, but of course I'm going to mention you, Vilma. Thank you so much for helping me with YouTube, with my podcast, my live streams, my Discord community, like everything. You've always been such an enthusiastic person and friend, and I just really appreciate everything you do. I'll be leaving a link to her Instagram in the description, because she's a really talented photographer and she deserves a break. And I don't know if it will come via my video, but if it can, then great, that's something achieved. Go check her out. Her content's brilliant and she deserves a shot. She sent me these questions. There's loads of questions. At least 18, so I'm going to go through them, and maybe this will be fun. I don't know. Question number 1: when exactly, how, and why did you get started on YouTube? Well, as I mentioned, I'll give it cliff notes because I've already kind of dealt with that. So I started it this time 10 years ago on the 20th of December. How? Wow, I had a handheld camera back then. It was quite cool actually. You could flip the screen back and forth, which is very normal now, but back then was quite a novelty. So you could see yourself or see whatever you were filming. I don't know. It was just cool, and you could do like sort of selfie video filming, like vlogging and stuff. And then yeah, as I mentioned, I got started originally, I think, to try and make money. To try and see if I could do what everyone else was doing, because 2013 YouTube was huge. I mean, YouTube has always been a big platform for people wanting to sort of make money and through creating their own content. And I thought maybe that was something I could do. I felt like I've always had some sort of level of charisma. I just haven't always believed in myself. Like now I believe in myself. I don't worry so much about like what people think or if something is good or if it sucks. You know, I try to learn from constructive criticism, but I don't let it like define me. I don't let it prevent me from doing things. So for anyone watching this, I would say, like, if you've got some ideas, things you want to do, just try, you know, just put yourself out there, see what happens. And, you know, you'll get better through time. You know, when I first started doing videos, I sucked, obviously, because I didn't know how to be in front of a camera. Because every time you start this, or any time you start something new, you suck. You have to accept that you're going to suck because you don't know how to do it, right? You can read up as much as you want, you can get yourself prepared as much as you want, but until you start doing it, you won't know what you're doing. And you know, 3-4 years later, or however long it's been, of me like taking this seriously and really trying, now I feel confident in front of the camera and I don't feel awkward anymore. And so there you go. Question number 2. If you had to describe your channel, what would you say? What is your channel about? It's a good question. It's all about me. It's my journey, Christian PK Reeve. Some people would choose to go for a particular content style or a particular brand. I suppose you could say the brand is me, which is quite niche. I suppose in order to be a fan of what I do, I suppose you'd have to be a fan of me and what I do. But to delve into that a bit further, I suppose it's always been about like life lessons and sharing my perspective of the world and what I learn. So it's kind of like, you know, as time goes on, you learn more and more and more. And as my friend Childish Jacko said years ago, you know, things like a podcast or a YouTube account are never wasted because they're essentially a time capsule. You know, they're a little piece of history that sits there and reminds you of your past and where you've come from. So, you know, there's a lot of ways that I look at my YouTube, but I think that's a good way of looking at it. It's my perspective on the world, it's my view, it's my legacy, I suppose, in a weird kind of way. Question number 3. What are the biggest lessons you've learned from being on YouTube in the span of these 10 years? Wow. Biggest lessons. You know, I get this question all the time on my podcast because I ask the question. But when it's flipped back on me, I never know what to say. I think be yourself. I think that's the most important thing. Like, don't worry about what other people are doing. Like, take a acute interest in what people are doing. Like, give things a go, for sure. But ultimately focus on what makes you unique. Because whoever you are and whatever you have to offer is going to be good. You know, people will tell you suck. People won't believe in you because, you know, those people are the types of people that don't do anything with their lives. You know, you're the one putting yourself out there. And that's noble. And that's something to be respected. And, you know, from what I've seen over and over and over again, the people that tend to be successful are the ones that are consistent and just keep going. You know, like Mr. Beast was unsuccessful for years before he became like really, really successful, you know. And I guess maybe he was a little bit different in the sense that he spent a lot of his time like researching and figuring out the algorithm and doing it that way. But there's been a lot of people who, you know, just kept doing their thing, and then there was that one video that made them, or there was that one topic that they kind of started expanding on, or maybe there was a content style that they just kind of started with and hooked on and then perfected, and it then became their thing. So for me, it's always been about that. And then also just, I suppose, not worrying so much about like having to put loads of videos out. Like I see sometimes people have like consistent upload schedules. I've tried that in the past, but I think the more important thing is if you've got an idea, put it out. But if you don't have any ideas, don't force it. It's okay to not have any ideas. You know, don't be so hard on yourself. You know, the ideas will come. You'll get like a spark of, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? My mind's going blank. I've been speaking for so long. An idea will come, and you'll get like excited, which I think is more important actually than the idea itself. Is the kind of the excitement that you get, like, oh, I could do this, and then that energy you're going to have is going to project itself onto the video, because that's the thing. People can see through you. If they see that you're fake, they can see through that. And especially now, like you look at what's on YouTube. I mean, we're at the point in time now where there's like AI content farms, entire YouTube videos that are just AI voice and video, and there's just no human there. So I think if nothing else, especially in the next 10 years of YouTube, we'll want to see more realness. And that's something that I've always tried to convey as much as possible, is authenticity. Question number 4. What are the biggest challenges you've encountered in 10 years on YouTube? I mean, that's the thing, like, everything. I don't know, I'm not a success on YouTube. Normally the people that do these videos, you know, they have 100,000 subscribers, or 5 mil subscribers, 10 mil subscribers. Like, I can't relate to that. You know, it was a struggle to get to 1,000. You know, that took me the better part of 3 or 4 years to do that. And I stopped trying to like actively pursue the YouTube thing years ago. When I post YouTube videos now, it will be because I have a particular idea or a thing I want to talk about, and I put it out there. Obviously, I post regularly for my podcast, and I put my acting stuff and occasionally my music online, but I don't really like actively pursue it. But I like that. I like how that feels. I suppose the biggest challenges I've encountered have been just like apathy, you know, people not really caring, or, you know, like there's been times when I was so sure that a series I'd started would do really well and it didn't. Especially like when I remember putting together a series called Flip of a Coin, and I was really proud of it. You know, it was this 3-season series, a horror series where it was just me filming it, and I filmed a lot of it during COVID as well, because I just, you know, I was trying to just put myself out there and take advantage of the time. And, you know, I was proud of this idea, and the idea is basically very similar to Split, a guy with multiple personality disorder and it was an opportunity to kind of show that I could like speak in different voices and stuff, so I could do acting and voice acting. Really, it was just an opportunity to show what I could do, to demonstrate what I could do. But yeah, I remember like being really excited for that. I did premieres, I did trailers, and it just flopped. Like everything else that I've tried on this account, it flopped. And I was really disheartened by that. And I suppose, again, another challenge for me then on the top of that has been the willingness to keep going despite everything flopping. You know, I jumped on the whole YouTube Shorts thing. I was so convinced it was going to work. It did sort of work in the sense that the videos and the algorithm would push videos, and they still do, but then nothing comes of it, you know? And I've stopped kind of putting myself in that mindset of like, oh, this is going to work, or oh, this could lead to this. And now I just put stuff out there. And if it gets attention, great. If it doesn't, well, I'm used to that at this point. Question number 5. How useful is YouTube as a tool for promoting yourself and your creative projects? I think YouTube still, to this day, is one of the best tools for doing that. I know the platform has become heavily commercial, and there's just ads everywhere, and corporate companies reposting all of their old TV shows and just dominating the timeline with that. But you know what? There's still a lot of amazing YouTubers that are coming out of the woodworks all the time, and it's really cool to see. It's really encouraging to see. And you know something interesting that's happened recently that I find very interesting? For so long, YouTube just wouldn't push anyone under like 10,000 subs. They just wouldn't. You know, it was like any other platform, like Twitch or wherever. Like, they just don't push people unless you're already making it, which is pointless, but there you go. Now I'm seeing people with like 100 subs, 50 subs, who are getting pushed in the algorithm. And it's like, yeah, their content deserves to be pushed. If it's good, if it's got something, you know, that people would appreciate, yeah, it should be pushed. That's how good content should work. It should be pushed by the algorithm. It shouldn't matter like how many subs or how many views they've got at this point. Maybe they could get more, you know? So I think that element is really cool, and just in general, you know, like for me as an actor, it's quite useful as a place to kind of put things there for posterity, and also just, you know, demonstrate like, oh, here's a short film that I did here, or here's my show reels, or here's something I'm working on, or here's this project, or whatever. And I also think that it's very useful from the perspective of like, you know, if you just don't have money to pay for certain things, you know, you don't have money for like a website, for example, you can set up a YouTube account for free and just do it, and that could be your sort of like makeshift website for a while. You know, I think that's brilliant. Question number 6. Ooh, is YouTube better than TikTok? What does it make? What makes it stand out from other platforms? Okay. Is it better than YouTube? Yes, I think so. And I think that's because I mean, TikTok has done a lot for me. I'm not going to knock TikTok in the sense that I think its reach is unparalleled. TikTok has the best reach. You cannot deny this. Across all platforms, TikTok it'll give you the best chance of reaching people. However, YouTube's algorithm pushes you more towards like the right people. So like TikTok will just push you out to people, but YouTube will push you out to like the people you're trying to reach. I think YouTube is better in the sense that like it pushes long form content, which, you know, TikTok is just like brain rot. You know, there's so much short form content out there. The stuff that does well is the outrageous stuff, the stuff that isn't trying to educate you or isn't trying to like promote anything positive. It's just like, you know, what really does well? Hate, anything hateful, anything so outrageously silly that it, you know, it's almost like fascinating, which is, you know, just brain rot core right there. Or it's just like reposts of stuff, you know, like for instance, some of the most popular content on there now is reposts of like clips of like Family Guy or whatever, with someone playing some mobile game in the bottom. Like it's just, I don't know, it's just crap. To be honest, pardon my language, but that's what it is. I think YouTube branding is probably quite strong, and that's what keeps it up there. But even now, even to this day, like I mentioned before, there's still the ability to broadcast yourself for free and not have to worry about paying. I don't know if it will always stay like that. I hope it does, but that's beautiful. And also, you know, while YouTube is trying to push to advertisers and stuff like that, TikTok, I feel like every time you log into that app, it's like everything is about making money. Everything, like the whole thing is geared towards like how can you push and make money and make money and make money. And it's like, it's great to make money, but does that have to be the sole focus of everything? You know, can't things just be about like good content? I feel like that's still what YouTube is about at its core. So there you go. Question number 7. Who is your target audience on YouTube? How do you determine the target audience for the different kind of videos you upload? I'll be honest, I don't spend a lot of time looking at my analytics. I used to. I don't anymore, as a conscious decision, because I don't want to depress myself at the lack of views. But when I have glanced at it, it seems like it kind of ranges anywhere from 17 up to 60, with the core demographic being kind of between that 25 to 45 range. That seems to be the core demographic. But again, I don't really focus on making content for a specific demographic. Like my target audience, if you like, is people that like long form discussion content, motivational content. I still feel really like I'm building my audience, you know, after 10 years. Like, I've only really been pushing the whole YouTube thing for about 4 years, and I've not really consistently been doing that. Like, consistently, I've been doing it for 3 years. So it's still very much building. So some of these questions will be hard to answer because I've not made it. You know, I'm not a successful YouTuber. What do they call it? A nano tuber or something like that? I don't know. Next question. Has YouTube made you more confident in front of the camera, or has this come about more through live streaming on other apps? Combination of both, because they feel different. Obviously, when you're doing YouTube or just any videos of any kind, you can just stop, start. You can cut things out. I'm sure I'll do cuts in this video. It's quite easy, it's quite straightforward. Live streaming, like, you're there, you're live. There's no cutting, there's no hiding away. Like, you got to be on. This is why as well I don't, like, if I'm tired or if I'm not feeling it, I won't live stream, because you have to be on, focused. It's performance art. It's like being on stage. You can't turn up and be like, you gotta be on it, man. You gotta be awake and ready. So it's very different between those two. But yes, I would say it has made me more confident, because, you know, the more you do something, the better you get at it. And I feel quite confident in both now. I feel like I have a very clear structure for both. So I don't worry too much about, like, is this good? Is this bad? You know, because I know that people like it. I know that people don't like it. And I just focus on doing what I can do best and trying to get better through that. Question number 9. What value can your target audience take away from your videos and content? Well, I'll go back to what I said before. I think that at its core, my YouTube channel can give people life lessons. You know, you can sort of learn from my mistakes and my stories and the things I've learned over the years. I think also you can learn, I mean, if you take the podcast as an example, that is a wealth of knowledge from hundreds of people all around the world who live all these different kind of lives. And it blows my mind. Every time I do that show, at the end, I'm left feeling inspired and motivated, and it keeps me motivated to keep doing the show. So for anyone listening and watching the show, I think that really gives you some value that you can take away and apply to your life. And, you know, for the videos that are outside of the podcast, I mean, a lot of the time I try to expand upon an idea. So, like, I did a video recently which was based on a quote that I'd heard from a Doctor Who episode back in the Matt Smith era. And I decided to expand upon that idea because I had a few ideas of, like, what I could build it into. And the video wasn't really about Doctor Who at all, but it was about something said within that episode, something that I had been thinking a lot about at that particular time. And I decided to expand upon it and create a video idea that people could maybe identify with and get something out of. And that's what I always try to do with my videos. I try to create something of value that people might find valuable in some way. Question number 10. How important is YouTube as an app, or how useful / helpful from a creator's view and from a viewer's point of view? Okay, so how important is it as an app, or how helpful is it? I think it's very useful. I mean, I've already kind of explained how it's useful for a creator as a sort of a bank of content, legacy stuff. It's useful, obviously, for helping you to kind of just become a better creator and, you know, showcase yourself, broadcast yourself, promote yourself. But from a viewer's perspective, I think it's invaluable because, I mean, think about it. How many times have you Googled, like, how to do something and you immediately went to a YouTube video? You know, like, I still do that to this day. It's so useful for stuff like that. Like, if you can think of an idea, chances are there's a YouTube video on it. And I think that's amazing. Because, I mean, that sort of thing wouldn't have existed 30 years ago. If you needed to learn how to do something then, you'd have to, like, I suppose, ask someone you know, like an adult or something, or maybe go into a library and jump into an encyclopedia and hope for the best. You know, like, it really has, in addition with, like, in connection with the internet in general, it's changed the way that we live. So it's incredible. Question 11. Besides the podcast, how do you come up with video ideas? What inspires you? This is a great question. A lot of the time it will come from, as I said, something in my life that's currently happening, something that I keep coming across. I do a lot of content where I'll be, like, ranting about something, or something's bugging me, you know, particularly when I see something annoying on, like, say, TikTok, and it just annoys me, so I decide to just rant about it for a little bit. But even when I rant, I want to try and present something of value. I don't want it to just be like, I hate this, and then that's all that you get, because I think it's more valuable to create positive content that inspires people than negative content. But that's not to say I don't think that there's any value in negative content. It's good to have a bit of a rant and a moan about things every once in a while. I mean, I'm British, that's what we do. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there's a specifically like something that inspires me any which way. The ideas just come and I just make a video on it. So every now and again I'll discover a new YouTuber that inspires me, like here's a free plug, shout out to Big Tug. He's a YouTuber that I've discovered recently who does a very kind of like classic sort of rant video style, but the way he does it is quite refreshing and it feels quite real. And I can tell that he's reading off a cue card, but it doesn't matter because he's good at what he does and it's fun, and you can tell he puts a lot of time and effort into his videos, and it's worth. And here's another thing about the whole consistency thing. He posts once a week, and it's always a pleasure every time his videos come out on a Saturday. They used to come out on like Fridays, now they come out on Saturdays, and I have to work like crazy right now. So when I come back from a shift on a Saturday and I see that there's a new video from him, I get excited. And I guess when I make content, I hope, I pray that maybe one day people feel the same way about my content. So there you go. Question number 12. Do you and how do you change the format or style of presenting the different types of content? Oh, I see. Okay. Well, format and style really comes down to, I suppose, for me, like what feels natural. So with the podcast, I always looked at it like a show. I know there's a lot of people that do podcasts, and like even the idea of a podcast makes people gag. It's like, oh, they got a podcast, red flag. But I was inspired to do podcasts from like back when podcasts were a niche thing. Back in the 2000s, when like the only podcaster was Ricky Gervais and like a few others. That's how long I've been aware of podcasts and been inspired by podcasts, and that's why I wanted to do it. Years later, I did it, and I still do it, and I love doing it. But I structure it like a show. It's not just to sit down, let's have a nice chat for an hour, because everything we have to say is like so interesting. Like, that's relative. What's going to be interesting to different people. But I do think that if you're watching a video, there should be some clear structure. I mean, let's take this video for example. You heard an intro. You heard me breaking down my 10 years on the platform. You heard me breaking down how I've grown in that time and how that pertains to the content that I create. You also heard me sort of talk about like how I do content now. And now we're going through user questions that have been sent in. And then I'll probably do a little intro at the end. That's a clear video structure. That's something to follow. The video is going to be insanely long, and I don't know if anyone's going to hang in there the whole time. If you do, well done, thank you so much. But, I think having a clear structure in your videos is very, very important, and especially for podcasts. But in terms of like the format and the style in general, I think that you just kind of find it yourself. Like when I look at my favorite YouTube creators, and you go back and look at their early stuff and then you look at their new stuff, you can see that progression over time. You can see them like slowly figure out like, oh, this works, this feels comfortable, oh, this segment. Like Big Tug, again, as an example, because his stuff is just fresh in my mind. It's really good. So when he does like a video breakdown and he's trashing something, like he did a video on university, right, which I relate to. I think university is such a con, and I've spoken about that quite a few times. Anyway, he does a segment where he goes like, guess that price, and then he'll tell you all these different outrageous prices of different things that are like rough estimates or pretty much bang on. And it's just a fun thing that he does across all of his videos whenever he gets the chance. And he's even made like in jokes of like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to keep using this content format, you can't stop me. And I just find that fun. When you're having like a sort of a banterous relationship with your audience and playing off your audience, it's going to get more fun over time. especially if you are confident in what you're doing and you don't worry so much about what everyone else is doing. Like, oh, this is the popular format right now, or this is the popular style. Like, I know my videos are not like the popular style or what everyone else does, but I don't want to be like everyone else. I want to be me. That's the whole point. So moving it forward, question number 13. How have you stayed motivated to keep creating content? Well, that's an easy one to answer. I haven't stayed motivated. As I mentioned earlier, it's been a battle to keep creating content over the course of the last 10 years. And a lot of that came down to life getting in the way and challenging me to the point where it took me to the darkest moments in my life. But as far as it pertains to just like creating content in general, I think the biggest thing that really stood in my way was the fact that my content never really works out. It never pans out. It never goes where I want it to go. So I had to kind of refocus, I guess, and look at, like, as I mentioned earlier, why I started doing this in the first place. Why do I create content? Well, I create content because I have ideas and I want to put them out into the world. And hopefully they reach some people and connect with people on some level. And if they don't, well, you know, as my friends have mentioned to me earlier, Childish Jacko once again, it's a time capsule. I'm sure I'll look back on it in the future and be like, what the hell are you talking about? Or I might be like, wow, maybe I wasn't that dumb. I don't know. But right now, the thing that keeps me motivated is just that I like to create content and I don't feel trapped in the circle of needing or being obsessed with algorithms and views and this latest trend. Like, I don't care. I just want to put my stuff out there and have fun. And if it connects with people, brilliant. I really sincerely hope that some of you enjoy the content as much as I do creating it. So thank you so much for watching and listening. Question number 14. How do you handle negative comments or criticism on your videos? Badly. I cry. No. I mean, it depends, doesn't it? No one wants to hear negative comments or criticism. We all know how the internet works. It's never just like a nice, polite review. It's always like you're trash, end your life, you're terrible, you suck so hard, why are you doing this, you're subjecting us to trash. I've heard it all. And I think one reason why it doesn't bother me too much is that, I've been hearing like horrid comments from people way before the internet existed. So I'm used to that. And also, you got to think about like where it comes from, because no matter what you do in life, people are going to have an opinion on it. They're going to have an opinion on you, and they're especially going to have an opinion on what you're doing. So you got to kind of believe in what you're doing and accept that people aren't going to like it sometimes. If people offer you constructive criticism, or even just criticism you can use, but maybe it just doesn't come from a great place, like they're attacking you, but there's something you can use it. Try to just push away the hate and just focus on the useful thing. I'll give you an example. When I started my podcast years ago, I received a comment about a year and a half in, and it was on a clip of a video that I did that was like 3 hours long. It was a 2-3 hour long podcast I did with someone. And there was someone in the comment section who basically said like, no one wants to hear your boring stories. You talk too much. Every time you share a story, it undermines what your guest is saying. Now, it was clear this person just hated me and hated the sound of my voice and just wanted to hear my guest, which that's fine. It's an interview podcast, a discussion podcast. It is more about my guests and the topics at hand than it is about me, even though it's got my namesake on it. Ironically, it really has nothing to do with me. That's why I have a Patreon show, patreon.com/Christian Reeve. The show is called Life with Christian Reeve. So if you want to hear me talking at length, that's the place to go. But yeah, the podcast, I was still trying to figure it out back then. And this comment got to me because it was like a person directly attacking me and what I do. And it's like, well, if you don't like me, just don't listen, don't watch. But I thought about what they said. And I thought, do you know what? Maybe part of what they're saying, like is right. Maybe I do talk a little bit too much, and maybe it's important to let my guests speak as much as possible and kind of adjust my role accordingly. So if you do listen to the podcast, you'll notice that my approach every single time is a little bit different. If my guest talks a lot, my approach is more to kind of lead the conversation in certain directions, kind of guide it rather than actually lead it and be the one talking. Now, if I have a guest that's a little bit more quiet, you'll notice that I speak a lot more because my guest is quieter. Maybe they're nervous, maybe they're shy, maybe they just don't have a lot to say on that particular topic. But my role changes in that moment. And I think that's really important to adjust to every single person that you're interviewing and try to create something that is going to make sense in each and every episode. Your role is always going to change and you have to adjust accordingly. But with what this person said, I thought, you know what? There is something to be taken from that. It might not have been nice to hear, shut up, Christian, no one wants to hear your boring stories. And it got to me at the time. It wasn't nice to hear. It really kind of, because at that point I'd done like hundreds of episodes and I was really trying to push this podcast, and this person had just said this horrible thing. And that's the thing, like, I think a lot of the time when you post these comments online, you don't think about the human being that you're attacking. That's the thing with hate comments. People don't think about the person on the other end. I'm a person with feelings, I'm real. Like I feel stuff. But there's two ways to look at this. One, it's negative criticism that you can either take or leave. And two, look, you don't have to react to it. You don't have to focus on it. One thing that my audience has always said is, why don't you focus on all the positive things people are saying? Why do you focus on that one negative thing? Well, that's just how human beings are, engineered. We always are drawn to the negative rather than the positive. You could receive 50 compliments today and one hate comment, and you will think about that hate comment all week. Despite being told, like, you're brilliant, you're beautiful, you're so talented, you'll think about that one comment, that one person. Why? That's so stupid. But it's just how we work. And that speaks more to our, I think, sense of insecurity and a lack of self-belief and so on. So we have to believe in ourselves. We have to be confident in what we're doing, and we have to accept that we're going to receive negative criticism sometimes. And I think we just have to be sensible with it and realize that, sometimes it's just a genuine criticism and something we can learn from. But a lot of the time, especially with things like trolling and stuff, it's people messing with you. It's people trying to waste your time. It's people just trying to entertain themselves. And it's also projection. When people hate on you, they're projecting their own problems onto you. It's nothing to do with you. It's all to do with them. So you have to kind of realize that and hold it at bay and realize, no, this has nothing to do with me. But don't react to it. Don't become part of it. Two wrongs don't make a right. I firmly believe that. Like, don't buy into the hate. Don't push into the hate. Just take from it what you can and leave everything else to the side. Question number 15. Which has been your most successful YouTube video to date, and why do you think that is? That's easy to answer. I did a video all about Reddit years ago, and shout out to Trial by Fire. He created a thumbnail for me that looked bonkers. It was a picture of me and he edited it with like the Reddit colors and something silly with my eyes and stuff, and it just did so well. And he also tested this idea of like publishing at different times, like as in promoting at different times, and that worked. But to be honest, I think it was just a bit of luck. It got I think it got like 10,000 views in the end, which blew my mind. Like I struggle to get like 5 views most days. So there's that. I think it's part of it's like being in the right place at the right time. I think there's a lot to be said for the YouTube like algorithm, as far as like what it chooses to promote in any given time. So if it sees that you've got like a good thumbnail and it throws that to a bunch of people and they like it and they react positively with it, it keeps getting promoted and promoted and promoted and promoted. If you're doing all the things you're supposed to do from an SEO standpoint, it's going to work out, it's going to do well. So I think that's why it was successful. And also, you know, I was doing the things you're supposed to do. And I know that there might be people being like, people thinking after I do this video, why don't you just do those things all the time? Well, I don't enjoy having to do all the things you are supposed to do all the time. And also, I've tried doing all those things. If you look at more recent thumbnails that I've done, they're more in line with, you know, what you're supposed to do with a thumbnail. They just don't tend to do very well. But I do pay attention to those things. I don't ignore those things. I've even watched videos on like how to do a good thumbnail, how to do, you know, good titles, whatever. Like there's a certain degree of luck involved. I think consistency is key. Just keep going, never stop going. So yeah, I don't know, there's a lot of factors, but I think that's mainly the reason why that video did well. Question number 16. Have you ever received any reactions or feedback from viewers that surprised you or made you change your perspective on something? Yes. Like I said, more so with like live streaming. Well, actually, no, let's focus it because this video is about YouTube. I think any criticism I've received for the podcast has made me change my perspective on things and my approach to how I do it. I always pay attention to the negative criticism in terms of trying to learn something from it. So that definitely changed my perspective. But I don't think I was ever really surprised by any particular feedback. Oh, actually, no, there was one comment recently from Grell. Shout out to Grell, thank you so much. When they commented and they said like, oh, that they, you know, always check out my videos and always get something from it. And I'd not seen them in a while in the comment section. And it was just a very heartfelt thing. I was really touched by that. So thank you for that. Thank you for watching. That surprised me. That was, you know, a lot of the time when I post stuff, I don't really expect it to reach anyone because the views are always so low across everything that I do. It's kind of like an afterthought. Like I create stuff, I get excited about it, I put it out there, it doesn't go anywhere, and then I just kind of move on. So to know that some people get something from it is huge. So thank you so much. Question number 17. What are your long-term goals for YouTube? Get 1 million subscribers. There you go. Boom. If we could do that, that'd be mind-blowing because, I mean, I thought 1,000 was impossible. And here we are. 10 years later, I was able to get 1,000. I can always hang my hat on the fact that I got 1,000. That's cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in setting big goals. I think it's a doable goal. I've seen some people set up an account and within a week they've got 100,000. You lucky people. That would be cool. That would be nice to see. I don't know if it will happen, but I've put it out there into the universe. Please like, share, and subscribe and help me get to 1 million subs. Question number 18, our final question. Do you think that YouTube will still exist in 5 to 10 years' time? What is the future of the Red app in your opinion? It's a hard one to answer. I mean, what we've seen so far has been YouTube becoming corporate. I definitely think it will exist. I think that it might struggle as far as like the battle between content creators versus like corporate. That battle is still ongoing, and you know, it's tricky. I mean, I think YouTube might do well in the sense that, I mean, we're seeing some crazy stuff on other apps like Twitch right now. Just on a tangent, you're seeing content creators basically getting away with like pretty much nudity. Like before I came on this video to record this, I saw that there was one girl who had put like black blockers over her body in various areas, and she was naked otherwise. And I'm thinking, how are they allowing that? But apparently Twitch has changed its like policies in more recent times to allow essentially like somewhat nudity, partial nudity. So I think that like it'll be interesting to see if YouTube will allow that too. I don't think that's a good path to go down though. I hope we don't go down that path, because there are still very young people using these apps. And that's another thing I want to add as well, is that with my content, I'm always trying to set a good example and be somewhat of a role model. Because, you know, I think back to when I was a kid watching older people and being influenced by them. And I like to think that if I could influence like younger generations in a positive way, that's something to be revered, that's something positive. I don't know if it's possible, but it would just be nice to try, because I see a lot of people doing the wrong thing and I want to try and counterbalance that with something positive. I hope that we see more individual content creators on YouTube and stuff. I think people are beginning to get sick of like short form content because of its brain rot tendencies, and also just the fact that you don't really get anything from it. You know, you get quick hits of pleasure, but you don't really get like something substantial. And it really feels like people are clamoring for that. So I don't know, my prediction, bold, but I think more people will be seeking long form content and more meaningful content. And I hope that I can be part of that group of people trying to do that. Now, a massive thank you for watching this video. 10 years on YouTube. Here's to the next 10 years. Thank you so much. Be safe, be well. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.